Hey, this is Draffet, Store, and this week I'm going to be doing it on perception. Um, Now, I've already done this a couple different times. I've had some camera difficulties, so it didn't take. Um, but I'm going to do it from a different perspective. So, what I mean by perceiving isn't, well, it partially is the part of the definition of uh, Wikipedia uh, definition of it, but which I will actually link at the bottom of the page. What I mean by is our individual uh, ability to perceive the world around us, and what we look at as, well, fundamentally good and evil. Now, good and evil are subjective terms, and I know a lot of people all know the Bible says, or there gives some religious doctrine, but fundamentally, how we perceive good and evil is subjective to the individual person and the individual society. Because fundamentally, we just haven't changed much in 5,000 years. And what we do and look at in the world, and how we perceive it as a species really has. Yes, we've evolved as in from throwing sticks to computers, putting computers in cars, but our perception of right and wrong and how we view others really hasn't changed from the time that we were knuckle draggers. If we've had a group that disagreed with our group, that group was bad, our group was good. So we perceived things in, this group is our enemy, other than the fact that they were the same species. This group lived in trees, we lived in huts or caves. And it still goes on today. A big time. The reason why I did this is because of the Palestinian Israeli situation in the Gaza Strip, and a lot of things on Facebook, and how people were jumping to the support of Jerusalem without really being open-minded to what was actually going on in the area. And another way, the reason I was doing this, with the holidays, some people's perception of what should be going on for the holidays and what actually is different than, on how things are. Now, what I mean by good and evil. In the definition of good, we're going with, don't tell lies, don't cheat people, treat people selflessly, give give others freely of your time, efforts, with and caring, with little or no, more or less selfless acts, truthful, giving. Where on the other end, evil would be selfish, deceitful, truthless, or dishonest, whichever way you want to go. Murder, rape, killing. Those are the scales. Where fundamentally most people are a middle ground. Okay, they don't. It kind of teeters back and forth a little bit. Some days, we're a little bit bad, and other days we're a little bit good. But fundamentally, we're neutral. We are neither good nor evil. Our perception of it is that we are one way or the other, and in reality, we're just neutral. We're the only animal, as far as I know, and science has proven or to my knowledge, it's proven that has concepts as these, good and evil. Most other animals just go about trying to survive on a daily basis. And then, I mean, that's just my perception, because honestly, I don't know what a cat thinks. I don't know what a cat, how a cat's mentality actually is. I do it from the perception of a human being. Now, what I'm going to get onto this is, now, as a whole, the individual's perception is based on a bunch of different factors, where your intelligence level, your socioeconomic level, your worldviews, your world location, your religions, and or lack of religion, change your perception of how the world around you is. At one time, chubby chicks were the norm, the in. And men were, beefy, okay, more or less ran around the 1500s-ish. King Edward the Fifth, I think it is, or Henry VIII, right around the time of the Henry VIII. That's exactly the time period, where at the earlier part of 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, our perception of what women should look like and men should look like has dramatically changed. A good example of our perception and how we view things is there's a video called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, All My Heroes on Steroids. And it talks about how, they take the original G.I. Joe figure, he looked like a normal Joe. Where as each progression of the toy came out, and it went from being, looking like me, normal Joe, to looking like The Rock, or Hulk Hogan, or Lee Haney. Or if nobody of you, none of the newer generations know who Lee Haney is, we'll go with Jay Cutler. Big, beefy, muscular, and the same with women. It went from being, marginally thin, and semi-wet belt, to a little bit towards anorexic, to back towards being kind of average, to being female muscular. Now, and now we're getting this big push with gotta love yourself, no matter how you look. Where one time it's just if you're fat you were, but now we're acceptance of that fat is just a state that we are in, and that you have to love yourself. So perception has changed. And societies as we have changed in our perception of certain things, but we still keep going back. It's more or less a, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Prime example, Hitler. He was, as a lot of people would assume, an evil man, vindictive man, dictator. In some of the people's perception, it would be correct in some avenues, but in other avenues, and how the Germans perceived him during World War II, and before World War II, he was, attempting to strengthen the German economy. He was attempting to try to get Germany back to a world power. What he did during World War II, during the war itself, made him be the dictator. Um, but we're looking at it from, oh, this is bad from, American allied perspective, where the Axis perspective and how they perceived themselves was totally different. Same thing with the Muslims and the Jewish in the Middle East today. Like I said, with part of the reason why I'm doing this video on perception is that the Muslims perceive themselves one way, and other groups perceive them as a threat, or however. Go to the media. In my other videos, I've used KISS because KISS is actually the best way on perception to do it by. I mean, because they started the whole with Alice Cooper. They started pretty much the whole makeup wearing thing. I mean, well, they expounded on makeup wearing thing more than Alice Cooper did. I mean, he did little slight eyeliner and stuff, and the gothic kind of thing. But they did it with the blood, the whole flame thing. But during the 70s, certain religious groups thought that they were satanic and demonic, and that's what the band stood for. When in reality, it was two Jewish boys, two party boys, get together, make a band, push their band, merchandise their band, and become the most marketable and worldwide band, marketing-wise, in the world. So the perception of them over time has changed from being the way that they were as a new phenomenon to now men in their 60s doing the makeup for another generation, but they've got coffins, underwear, t-shirts, toys. I bet you I can find a roll of KISS toilet paper somewhere. So the perception of them, as the band has progressed, has gotten different, and that's how I'm trying to do it. As an individual person, my perception and everybody else's perception on how the world is and how each individual person does things is totally different. I can go through my family's perception of my parents or myself to, ex-friend's perception of how I am, or over how I actually am, or, to, like I said, Hitler, Muammar Gaddafi, and how we perceive them today over how we perceive, the rest of the world perceives the U.S. government. Where, people in the United States think the U.S. government's doing, well, in multiple different things. But in the rest of the world, they're looking at it from a whole different perspective. Like I said, world view and world location. Video games, another prime example. When they first came out, everybody thought they were detrimental to. I mean, this will be the last example, because I can go on about perception of on any level, but it's on an individual level. It's just how things are. But video games, when they first came out, they were all the detrimental. They're going to screw your brain up. Do this, and waste your life. And like everything else, drugs in excess can screw your life up. Video games in excess can screw your life up. Working out in excess can screw your life up. Eating in excess can screw your life up. So, the perception that it's fundamentally a bad thing, well, scientists are finding out that a certain amount of video game play actually helps cognitive functions, improves timing, dexterity, depending on which video games you play, of your organization skills, your motor function, well, like I said, motor function. I mean, a whole list of other things where people just say, you know, yeah, they're bad for you. If there's no point into them. You're not gonna, why do you keep doing them? But in a way, I mean, it helps. Can it possibly end up helping Alzheimer's patients by playing video games to keep the brain functioning, equally. I mean, well, not equally, better, than what it would be without, uh, the video game stimuli in the first place. I mean, television sets, same thing. My grandfather used to call it the boob tube, and I mean, the perception of it is that it's just for entertainment, but the actuality, television could be used for a myriad of things, from entertainment to education to manipulation to marketing as a tool for to market a product, and it has been for the better part of last 60 years. But it ends up, again, like I said, all being the perception of the individual person or the society or societies in a whole. Now with that, next week is Christmas. This special episode, not the actual holiday, because in Europe it actually is the holiday. We're in certain areas in Europe it actually is the holiday. Now, sorry about that. Hit record. And then during the actual Christmas holiday here in the United States and Canada and Mexico, I will be doing it on religion, and it's a two-parter. More or less take off of what I did back in March and April for Easter, where I touched on the difference between the Judo, what an actual religion is, over what the Judo-Christian tree is, which incorporates Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, and how they're actually the branch of the same tree, just one. But in this way, I will actually do the first one. I would actually do the first, or the first one. I will actually do the definition of what what religion is, and go over all the different world religions that there actually are. Real individual religions, not sects of a particular religion, but actual religions themselves. And then I also will deal with it from the religious ceremonies, how certain holidays are actually conglomerate of two or more religious holidays, and the conversion process, and we'll see when I get to it. So with that, this is Draffet. This is Draft Store. Have fun.